franchises in 20 countries while in real life not having in one, because he didn't have to carry the constant burden of faking. But that was one conversation that changed. किसी को बुरा नहीं बोलना, गलत नहीं बोलना, दिल नहीं दुखाना, disrespect नहीं करना, सबको सबका सच दिखता है. बंदा ठीक है, बात ठीक कर रहा है, प्रोडक्ट से कुछ गलत है.
He didn't have what it took. The Indian cricket team is going through a bit of a funk.
Guy enjoys today and how people love him. Today running at 300 odd people, multiple businesses, being invited to speak at various events. I'm like, oh, very nice. Oh, Gaurav, this is amazing. Oh, sounds good. And the moment you turn on, I'm like, ye card mere kaam karna.
Hey listeners and viewers, it's good to be back with my second podcast series. Welcome to Let's Chat with GB. I'm your host Gaurav Bhagat and you can call me, well, just that, GB. Every fortnight we delve into thought-provoking conversations spanning an array of topics, from captivating life stories to insights that inspire. Our aim is to ignite that spark in you, the spark that compels you to act, to change and to make a difference. So whether you're here for motivation, wisdom, or just to listen into a good chat, you're in the right place. So let's dive into the conversations and uncover more in Let's Chat with GB. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Let's Chat with GB. And this one is special. Special because I have today with me a guest who has changed not only my life, but the lives of countless people before me. You probably have heard of him, and he is none other than Paritosh Pathak, one of India's most sought after coaches and the only one who specializes in the domain of networking. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome and bring to you Paritosh Pathak. Paritosh, super to have you at the GBA, super to have you on Let's Chat with GB, and this one is special for virtue of all that you've done for me and so many in my inner circle.
Thank you, Gaurav. Before we do anything else, I'd love to take the credit. I can't. All right, this makes me uncomfortable. As a trainer and coach, Gaurav, I know that I'm the one who's giving gyan to the world, but there are very few who are taking. I want to tell here for record that I'm a fan of this guy. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I've known him for more than, I think, 13, 14, 15 years, nearly something like that, 15 years now. And the journey that he has taken, I know that the role that I've played is very small, and with what you've been able to create is amazing, Gaurav. So much respect, right? And what you're doing today, I would say the empire that you're building of the gifting business and the empowerment space that you've taken over, like, lovely, amazing.
No, thank you.
It's a privilege to be here today.
And takes me back to a conversation now. So many of you know that I represent CARDONE in India, and the academy is 10xing the world. But before I took that plunge, I spoke to three people. Okay, one was of course Mrinalini, because she has to give her okay on that. The second was Aarti, coach at PNI, and the third was Paritosh. And when I went in and I said that should I do this, and I remember him saying something to me that he said there are four kinds of people, and especially in the coaching industry in the world. He said you have one which is the C, you have one which is the D, you have the CP, and then you have the DC. And I'm a little confused, and I'm like, what are we really talking about? And he said you have the certified, so people who go in and get certified. You have people who have depth, and they have knowledge and insights. Then, of course, you mentioned the CP, which you said is the most dangerous.
Copy paste.
Because these are the copy paste,
yes.
Right? They go in and they do a particular course and they come back.
They replicate, yes.
It's
wicked.
And then, of course, you mentioned the DC, which is the depth, and the certification. And you said, GB, you have both. And I think you should go with it. And I think when I was leaving, you also said, let's throw an eye over there, that you have the intention to help, the intention to empower, the intention to give back. And I think the D+C+I formula. So anyone who's, listening into this and intends to go in to help people, thank you, Paritosh, for that template as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so of course, our journey goes back, many, many years, and you were a tech guy at, one of the big consulting firms, and then you decide to embark on this journey of, networking and helping others network. So let's hear a little bit about, how this journey really started for you.
Okay. First of all, I did not decide anything about it. Nothing. So my life has been a series of accidents, and all I've done is I've not come in the way. But so the story goes like this, that my childhood was extremely lonely. I grew up in a joint family, but somehow just being one of those kids that were alone, I Maybe it was my own ability, maybe it was the environment, I don't know now. Right? But I grew up extremely alone, feeling left out of relationships. Grew up, went out, studied, came back, started working at KPMG at that time. And one fine evening, this was in Bombay, a friend of mine had come over and I took this friend of mine, Varun, to a party and meet another friend called Neeraj Shah.
Sure.
Right. And on the way back, Varun asks me, Neeraj kya karta hai? No, I was an employee, he was a business owner.
Right.
We like employees and business owners don't really bond, right?
Yeah.
So I did not. And he made fun of me. I was so embarrassed. I went to Neeraj and said, "Bhai, tu karta kya hai? Mujhe bata, mujhe kal Varun se fir milna hai."
Right.
He'll ask me and he'll make fun of me. So out of that embarrassment, I went and saw a BNI meeting. I went to Neeraj. Neeraj said, Neeraj tried explaining BNI to me. Nothing made sense. I was so embarrassed. Like, mereko pata. He said, "Jaake dekh le." Went and saw. The moment I saw that, the switch went on. I was like, this is what I was looking for in life. Yahi to chahiye tha. Somehow that people coming together, helping each other, that energy, it's a beautiful place, right?
Right.
You've been in it for so many years, right? Just happened. And from there, story led to another. Sometime later, I asked Neeraj, I want my dad to get in. He said, we don't have it in Delhi. The fire had stuck in, brought it to Gurgaon, ran it for a couple of years. Stuff happened. It just happened to me. Never in my life ever had I thought that I would become a trainer or coach.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right. So becoming a dancer was an option. Running a gym was an option. Starting, going and doing an IT job was an option. These were the three options for me. Training, coaching? Oh no.
On the table. Yeah, I've seen you make some good moves on dance floors. So, and truly, I'm sure TikTok would have been at loss to not have you, in its space and more. But I mean, networking, okay, it invokes such a large number of emotions in people, different reactions in people. People think, rejection. People think, selling. People think pushy. People think MLM.
Up everything.
What is some of the biggest fears that you see in people when it comes to networking?
Okay, so biggest fear is this fear of rejection. It's so scary to approach someone with an agenda. What happens is, and there's a reason that fear of rejection is one of the biggest fears. That's because we are accustomed to personalizing the rejection.
Right.
So if you say no to me, right, I come to you and say, hey Gaurav, I do training and coaching. Do you want to do training and coaching? You say, nah, Paritosh, I'm not interested. I'm not going to think that Gaurav has said no to the training and coaching to the product and service that I offer. I'm going to think Gaurav has said no to me.
Right.
And what that does is that creates a hit on my self-worth.
Yeah.
Which in the way that today's ecosystem is, we're anyways extremely show off. We're carrying this facade on the outside that my clothes, my pen, my watch, my everything, right? But really, so many of us have got this I'm not good enough inside of me. And when you end up rejecting me, it's like I've got a huge wound and you've just put salt and pepper on that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest fear. It doesn't have to be. There is no need for it. The moment we understand, you're saying no to the product service.
Yeah.
And maybe you're saying no today. Maybe you'll say yes tomorrow. Maybe I have to earn my trust in your eyes. Maybe I need more credibility in mind. Right. And then maybe you'll come to me. Yeah.
And you're right, because even in sales, I think the fear of rejection is probably the number one reason why people say, sales is something we cannot do. So what is your advice to some of these people who have this fear of rejection? Of course, you mentioned that, yes, trust takes time and the credibility, but one piece of advice to people who are, have this thought in their mind, and how could they potentially overcome this fear?
You've asked for one, I'll give two. Pehle to we'll give the high level motivational stuff. And that motivational stuff is very simple. Where they go rejection to game ka part. There's nowhere in life where it's 100% conversion. I want to ask you guys, anywhere in life, any domain, any area, any segment, anywhere where you've seen 100% conversion in life, it doesn't exist. Right? So we have to alter our relationship with this thing called failure rejection. It is going to happen, and rejection does not mean that something bad is happening. It simply means that we still have to figure something out. And even today, you get so much rejection. I get so much rejection. But when rejection happens, what we do is we ask ourselves, okay, what could we have done better in this sales call, in this sales meeting, in this networking event? Right? I remember I'd put up a post a long time ago, months ago, where I said, learn the lesson before the failure sets in. People are not doing that. The moment we face a rejection and we come and say, what could I have done in this meeting that could have gone to a yes, I'll be able to take that learning, go to the next meeting.
Yep.
And I may still get a no there,
right.
but I improve. Right. And then when at that point in time comes that one marker, we were discussing this earlier, that one moment
changes
where everything changes. People give up too soon. So the two pieces here is one, motivational stuff, go on, don't give up, etc., etc.
Correct.
But two, alter your relationship, rejection, failure. But it's also I want to give a very important advice. I'm not saying, Gaurav, that we have to go just take on bullets. I'm saying is we have to learn.
Right.
Every hit, every rejection, every failure, every loss, we have to learn. For some people, that learning time is very short. These are the people we end up seeing, they end up starting a business and in 2 years, oh my God, it's a unicorn. Right? It's just a different combination for them. For some people, it's after they've worked 20 years and then they get to see. So what is it going to be for someone? I think only God knows. Right? But the way this is going to happen is very simple. If you're afraid of failure and rejection, I want to say this. Make the worst case scenario your best friend. You have to stop being afraid of failure because it's not going away anywhere.
And perhaps it also sometimes becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If the commentary in your head is, oh, I'm not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, I'm going to get rejected, it's going to hit you at some point or the other. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as well.
Our behavior is always consistent with the beliefs. And if I believe that you're going to reject me, my entire body language is going to change. I'm going to be sitting more nervous and I'm going to be like, Gaurav sir, how are you sir, this sir, that sir. And you'll be able to look at me. What our brain does is our brain cannot work with inconsistencies. So the moment you'll see what I'm saying versus who I'm being are two different things, your radar is going to go up and you're going to say something's not right. And you'll be giving me a check almost, and you'll take it back. You're like, okay, Paritosh, let me just talk to a couple of people. I'll get back to you.
Right.
And how many times that has happened with us, right? A check coming to us almost has gone back.
Right.
Most of the time, the person cannot pinpoint what was wrong. They just said something is not wrong. Those red flags fire up.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And while you may think that this conversation is all about, networking, it's going to be so much beyond. You've already had such, pearls of insight come just in the first few minutes of this podcast. And of course, there'll be so many more. So definitely stay tuned. This is, like I said, one of the most brilliant minds that we have in the country. And like I said about that, even the integrity and the intention is totally the next level.
Thank you.
So many years of being a networking, coach and being involved with the industry, don't you still hear things like people saying, oh, networking is a concept which is foreign, India mein shayad nahi chalega, may not work in India. So certain misconceptions, on networking in India and how to some degree, the entire concept isn't taken as seriously as it should. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. One simple question. How many universities are teaching this? 0. There you go. And our education system doesn't teach it. And I want to pick this bone if possible with the entire education system. It's not possible. It's too big, too huge. But if one day I get a chance, I want to pick this bone up. See, anyone who's doing well today knows the value of relationships. But our education system till date has not figured out that there's a need to learn this. We have led ourselves to believe that either we're born with disability, it sounds like disability or disability, I'm saying disability, or we're not born with the ability to network.
Right.
It's not true, it's a learnable skill. It is absolutely a learnable skill. What's happening is, the reason this world has this so-called negative notion towards networking is because everybody thinks that networking is about going and getting something. And that's the biggest lie. That is the biggest lie. Any networker that is worth their salt, Gaurav, knows that the more you give and not ask and not expect, the more comes back.
So true.
And still the world is creating that notion. I imagine this in my head that the moment people think of networking, they have this very narrow tunnel vision that they imagine an event, a person going to another person, giving their card, giving that elevator pitch, which in my head I'm tired of giving again and again, hoping that you'll say, oh, I want this, and then I'll follow with you. That's all people say. But the truth is that business is probably only 10 to 20% of me. There's so much more.
Correct.
And the reason we've got this resistance, and yes, we do, you're absolutely right, we've got this resistance, is because we don't even understand. Eventually, everything runs on relationships.
100%.
Everything.
100%.
You can get a client from marketing, you can get a client from sales, wherever. They're going to stay with you on relationship when they like you as a person.
Correct.
They're going to stay with you, and they're not going to leave you. They're going to forgive your mistakes. They're going to bear. They're going to invest. They're going to support. They're going to open doors. Everything.
True.
Eventually, things run on relationship. And I know your philosophy of sales is relationship selling.
Correct.
Right? I've not done your program, but I've met enough of your students, and I keep hearing the conversations when I teach something like, oh yeah, Gaurav sir also teaches us that.
Correct.
Right? So there's so many synergies in that.
Yeah.
It's all relationships.
100%.
And the moment we get that, but I think we're way too far from that right now. Sadly, way too far.
Yeah, it brings me to a few interesting points in terms of what you mentioned. Of course, you spoke about relationships, and it was Grant Cardone, who says this, and we must give credit to him. And he talks about the difference between a contact and a contract, right? And you write down contact and you write down contract. And I ask this to people sometimes. They're like, what's the difference? And they're like, oh, contact is something in my phone book. Contract is an order that I've received. I'm like, look at those two words again. And of course, the difference is the letter R, and that R stands for relationships. And networking is such an important, cog in the wheel to build that. Because relationships aren't built in a day. Relationships, are built daily. So it's something that you have to keep doing. Which brings me to two interesting points. Recently, I met someone and I said that, have you ever considered networking? And they're like, we don't, because he says, Aajkal AI ka zamana hai, digital ka zamana hai. Today, it's all about being present on social media and digital, and networking doesn't work like it used to. Now, I had some thoughts, on this one, but I'd love to hear your insights. When people come and say, oh, today it's all about, the digital piece and AI and networking in the conventional sense doesn't work as much. Like, what would be your thoughts there?
I think, Gaurav, this could be true in certain contexts. We'll have to evaluate multiple contexts to answer this. There's no right or wrong answer here. Right, let me ask you a question. Let's say your dream client is Ratan Tata. Right. You think you can run Facebook ads and get him to be a client? Not happening.
Chances are slim.
Slim, right? It's possible. Anything's possible on the planet. I'm not going to take that away. I'm sure some digital marketers are watching right now. They're like, yes, I can make Ratan Tata your client. I'm sure they could. Some extremely good people could. But the chances are slim. Right. So it really depends upon what you want. And it also depends upon the stages. So I talk about this, that when you're at early stage of your business, probably marketing is going to be maybe more valuable because you are looking to scale up, you're looking to survive. Networking, I always say this, that marketing is fast, but it's expensive. Networking is slow, but it's powerful.
Not that.
Right? So it really depends upon which stage of your life you're at. I'm not against marketing. I do marketing now. Right? I have got team members who get it done. Right? And I've had enough experience in life now today to know that nothing is absolute. There are certain stages where marketing hands down is going to contribute more. So for example, let's say you are in an e-commerce business and you are looking to scale. Networking is not going to help you as much as marketing would. So I can't come around and just say networking is absolute. But then let's talk about the different side. Let's say you're in an e-commerce business. You're looking to scale. And to scale, you need a big team. Your team, you need relationships. And what about that? That's also networking, right? Anywhere there are two human beings and there's a relationship contract with an R, there is a relationship. That is networking. And that's what I meant when I said earlier that businesses 10 to 20% of networking. So whether we are in a completely digital business, the only difference may be that we may not be networking with our prospects or our client, but we are networking with our team, with our investors, with our mentors, with our advisors. We're going to the right kind of people, asking, pleading, open the right doors for us, getting the right contact. That's all networking. So if you have a very narrow view that networking is business development, I would agree to the point that, AI, etc., networking is not needed. But if you look at the whole context, it is as non-negotiable today as it was 100 years ago and as it is going to be 100 years later. It is not going away.
Right.
As long as you're dealing with human beings.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, where you say that as long as, there's human-to-human interaction, like the H2H. So people come in and say, hey, we do B2C, we do B2G, we do B2B, we do D2C. I'm like, irrespective. I said, behind all these people, there is a human being. You're a human being. Okay, in the end, making that connection. Of course, networking plays such an important aspect. Another piece I want to talk about, and it popped up from something that you said earlier, where you spoke about people sometimes being introverted. And while it might be hard to believe, both of us are fairly introverted.
Crazy, big ones. Yes.
Well,
This is pressure.
Right? And people be, how is that possible? I mean, you guys are, front and center at the stages and everywhere else where you're speaking. But of course, you knew me in the early days of BNI. I was the quietest guy sitting in the back room.
Won't speak.
Right? So, advice, networking for introverts advice. What is your thought to them? How should they, even just get out of their comfort zone and try it?
Right. So, one, I don't recommend that people get out of their comfort zone. Right? It doesn't work. It doesn't help to try and be like someone else. We have to understand the science first. We all have two kinds of behaviors. One is natural, and the second is adaptive. Right. So, right now, you and I are in our adaptive behavior. The camera's on, lights on. You in your waistcoat, I'm in my jacket, right? This is our adaptive behavior. If this was a natural environment, I would be in my PJ with my sweatshirt, with a cup of coffee and with my Kindle in my hand and some nice music playing, and do not anyone dare enter my room. I'll be that. Yeah. Something similar for you. You'll probably chilling at home with your family. Those are natural behaviors, right? So to all the introverts, I want to say that understand that you have a natural behavior and there's an adaptive behavior. And many people have adapted, right? Steve Jobs adapted to the stage, 100%. Right? Elon Musk adapted. We have Ratan Tata when he comes out. Seems like that he's a huge introvert. But maybe he's not. I have not met him personally, but my observation says he is. So one, it's okay. Two, do not go around changing yourself, right? Being an introvert is not a limitation by no means. You can go to Google right now and put in the sentence, nearly 50% of most successful people are introvert. And there's several article studies. I think there's even one from Harvard. I'm not too sure, but I think there is. Right? They'll show up and say that 50%, nearly 50%. Are introverts. So introversion has nothing to do with anything. The problem comes, Gaurav, when I, an introvert, go to a networking event, I see an extrovert going around the room, talking to people, exchanging high fives, and I tell myself, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I start comparing myself to the other person. Right? I just do not have that ability. Even today, I was joking about this with you earlier when we were having lunch. Right. As you put me in a big hall, I'm going to be the most nervous guy, and I teach the world how to network. Come on, think about it. But if you put me in a small room, informal conversation, I love that place. So, introverts, do not try and be like anyone else and figure what kind of networking works for you. Right? There's formal networking, informal networking, structured networking, unstructured networking, social networking, business networking. Figure out what kind works for you, and here is the point. Become the best in the world at what you can do. Okay. There's a lot that no one can do. Right? But the kind of networking that I enjoy doing, I'm really good at it. But am I the best networker I know? No. Am I even trying to be one? Hell no. I'm very happy with who I am. I'm working and I'm just improving. That's what we're supposed to do. So stop torturing yourself thinking, I have to be like someone else. It's okay when you're saying that there are things you can't do. That's okay. But the question is, how much of what you can do are you doing? So if an introvert has very close connections, high value connections, I'm sure the introvert can pick up the phone, call, and just honor the relationship. Hey, long time no see. What are you doing? Are you doing that? Now, their introverts are going to come up and say, but you know what? When I call, what will they say? But this, but that, but that. So we've become those people who today have a problem for every solution. And if you just stop that, you just say, okay, forget what I can't do. Let's talk about what I can do. And start doing that. That's enough. That's what these super successful people have done. They just focus on their strength.
Love that. So truly specialist instead of generalist. But even in terms of like not only in what you do as work, but even in a networking situation, you can find your niche and you can probably go all into that niche as well.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Think about it. Any event, Gaurav, that you've gone to, you've seen a celebrity, you've seen an influencer, a highly successful person. Have you ever seen them going around the room, even in the room of their likes? Forget where they are as a guest speaker, right? Even in the rooms where the room is entire room is full of people that are like them. They're not going around them. They're building this space. They're building relationships. They're building long-term relationships. They understand it's not about one interaction.
Yeah.
It's about a sustained relationship.
Right.
And when they build that, magic happens.
So great. I think that's such a valuable lesson. And there was a time in the early days when I didn't know, too much about the entire networking piece, and I would go into expositions, conferences, and I'd try and meet with a whole bunch of people, and more didn't ever relate to anything. And now it's almost like I go in, I have barely 5 visiting cards. I have 2 or 3 meaningful conversations, but those are leading to
long-term.
And that too out of a 2-3 day conference. And it's not like a few hours, right? It's exactly the same. Right?
Like I remember one conference was happening. It was going to be one of India's largest in space, and everyone was printing 200, 300, and 400 cards. I'm like, what are you guys planning? They're like, oh, sab kuch aake card baatenge. Because we have to give these out, right?
We have a technical term for that, right? Card dispensing machine.
Yeah.
And card collecting machine.
So true.
But what's happened there is that nothing's going to come out of it. And I remember, going to, and one of my cards is really thick card. Again, thanks to your insights on how your visiting card should be built. My visiting card holder cannot carry more than 5. So by default, I'm only taking those 5 cards, and invariably, I come back with a couple. And you've always said, and this should be great for our listeners as well, you always said never give out your visiting card until you've been asked for one. So let's hear a little bit more about that, because I think that'll be invaluable to many people here.
Absolutely. Okay.
What do you want? Let's say I'm at a networking event with you. What do I want? End of the day, what do I want? I want you to take interest in me, stage 1, and hopefully buy from me. Now, very simple logic, out of really basic. What is the best way for me to get you interested in me? I'm sure it is not me bringing my business card out, giving it to you, taking a deep breath and saying, hello Gaurav sir, my name is Paritosh Pathak. I'm a strategic networking coach. I started training coaching 15 years ago. I've trained this person, trained that person. That student of yours done my course. It's good for you. You teach sales. Networking can add a lot of value. People go on and on. The more I go on, the bigger your defense is going to be. Sure. But imagine a scenario being what? I come to you, I shake your hand, I keep my business card. Right? And I talk to you now about you, on me. I say, hey Gaurav, tell me a bit about you. What brings you here? What's that 10x you wear? You're doing brand card. Wow, you do this kind of training, coaching, lovely. The couple of people I definitely want to send over to you. If I'm taking interest in you, Gaurav, question, how long will it be before you start to wonder what I do?
Pretty much on question 2 or 3. So like a minute into the conversation, now you have my attention. Now it's looking genuine and authentic.
Cool. And when you're wondering what do I do, what are you going to do?
Let's hear a little bit about what you do.
You ask, right? Now the research in this area says when people ask for information, they'd retain it 80% longer. Right? So when you ask, now when you're asking, your brain is interested, it is focused, it is listening.
Right.
Versus when I'm dumping information, you're looking at, oh my God, my 5 minutes are gone. Right? Now your brain is interested, it is listening. So now when I bring out a nice looking card,
right,
and I give it to you, you will remember this card tomorrow morning, a week later.
Correct.
Otherwise, what happens? We come back from a conference. Next morning, when we look at the card, so many times we say, "Ye card maine kab liya? Ye kiska tha?" What was this conversation? I don't even remember meeting this person. Just happened for me today. I'm not going to show the card, but I'm showing here. Right, there's this card. It just came out of my jacket, and I was like, I don't remember seeing this card when I was coming here in the cab. Right? I was like, what is this? I'm sure this was a conversation that had no value. So the best way for me to get what I want is to honor you. Right? And when you like me, when you ask about me, when you're interested in me, I'll tell you what I do. You ask for my card. And I say, this is where you got to have an ego issue, nowhere else. But this is one area. And I'm not giving you my card unless you ask for it. And I'm going to get you to ask for my card. And the way to get you to ask for my card is to care about you, to try and add value in your life, to be interested, genuinely interested in you. And if you think about it, talking about everything that's the opposite of what's happening out there. People are going to events saying, how many cards am I collecting? How many conversations I'm having? We're building temporary, I call them temporary relationships, short-lived relationship, okay? A short-term relationship, STR. We're building STRs, right? Relationships that are sustained only till the duration of conference.
Right.
I'll meet you at the conference, I'll meet you once, twice, thrice. End of the day, we'll talk like that, we're best friends, but we'll just not keep in touch. Right? So,
Invaluable.
don't give your card out, don't.
I think we just hurt the business of a lot of printers out there, but it is not true.
We've increased the business because we're saying get very nice looking cards. You've got thick cards. My cards have gold plating, right? I don't give them out. They're super expensive. I don't want to give my cards out, right?
I love that. I think it's something that has to mean a lot before it's actually handed out to someone, and only when someone actually asks for it with interest and authenticity.
Think about it. It's your identity, right?
Yeah.
Your business card, your networking card is your identity. You just don't want to go and, like, in weddings, we are like, we don't want to be doing that.
No. So it brings me to a very interesting point, and like I said, there's so many thoughts going through my mind as well. But there is this entire concept that you need to fake it till you make it. Okay, and I think if there is one thing which is, to my mind, okay, the biggest pandemic in the world today, people talk about COVID and everything else. To my mind, I think the biggest pandemic today is a trust deficit. We just don't know who to trust. Okay, sab baatein karte hain bade bade, but when it comes to actually, seeing the substance behind it, there's nothing. So, your thoughts on just not having the fake it till you make it phenomenon and being someone who's, their authentic, genuine self, which we, even in the space of training and coaching, lack so much today. So I want to pick your brain on that one, because this is something that you've lived all your life, where you said that, okay, no bullshit on this side. Okay, this is something that is non-negotiable. I am what I am. Take it or leave it. So, love your thoughts on that.
You're going to start some controversies today? Well, let's go for it, okay?
Sure.
Profoundly against this concept of fake it till you make it. I'll tell you why. As a concept, I don't have a problem. There's a fundamental challenge. You can tell my truth. It won't take you more than 5 minutes to know what I'm really made of. In my workshop, I talk about this one line. I get this like lasered, engraved in the minds of my students. One sentence: "Sabko sabka sach dikhta hai." Everyone can see everyone's truth.
Repeat that again?
Yeah, sabko sabka sach dikhta hai. Everyone can see everyone's truth. So I might come here pretending to be like the world's #1 coach, having franchises in 20 countries while in real life not having in one. I'd talk big in front of you. What we discussed earlier, your brain can identify inconsistencies. I just might look away for a moment. I might pause where I'm not supposed to, right? Or you may ask me a question, I might lose my confidence, I may change the topic. Something's gonna happen. And you will know. Now, what's gonna happen? When you see those signs, your red flags are gonna go up, and they're simply gonna say, "Banda theek hai, baat theek kar raha hai, product se kuch galat hai," and you'll not end up buying. Right? Versus if I came to you and I said, "Well, this is who I am. Right? This is what I'm doing right now. Right? And I genuinely believe that this is going to add a lot of value. And would you please try it out?" And 10 wouldn't, maybe 11th person would.
Sure.
Right? And then 11th person would go and talk to 10 people and say, "This guy's good." Right? What's happening at networking events? People are just faking it. The other person can tell, but in our Asian conditioning, we are brought up to avoid conflict. किसी को बुरा नहीं बोलना, गलत नहीं बोलना, दिल नहीं दुखाना, disrespect नहीं करना, right? It doesn't happen in Europe and US. People are very good at saying no. They do it very professionally. But in Asian conditioning, we're not. So when you are faking it with me, I'm like, "Oh, very nice. Oh, Gaurav, this is amazing. Oh, sounds good, sounds good." And the moment you turn around, like, "Ye card mere kaam ka nahi hai." So I'm not going to tell you on your face. It's going to happen. But sabko sabka sach dikhta. You can't hide the truth from people. Sabne duniya dekhi hai, Gaurav.
Very true.
Everyone has seen the world.
Very true. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think also, like you mentioned, when someone talks about themselves, I always say this, you get a sale. Of course, when your network talks about you and your solution, you get a sales force. But what you just mentioned is the contrary. That in case you haven't been someone who's been authentic and someone who's not been genuine, and we have a whole bunch of people who will not hold back in terms of, letting the world know what you stand for and what you are. And then that cognitive dissonance plays in and you're finished. So it's kind of short term.
And you don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know. You're wondering why are people not buying? I've got a great product. Why are people not buying? You think it's a problem of the product.
Right.
But no, your credibility in your network is gone because people knew that you're not being real.
Yeah.
And if I can't trust what I see, then how do I trust what I buy?
So you're so right. And I think I've known certain examples, people such as Gurpreet Bhatia, for example.
Lovely.
He didn't have what it took. And he was very candid. He said, I am not where I should be at, but one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
And we see, this fire within him to say, okay, this is what I aspire towards. But he's never ever, said that, oh, I'm something which I'm not.
Right.
And I think people just, love that, the authenticity in that. And just wanted to work with him personally. Yeah.
I consider this to be an absolute privilege that I've seen his transition firsthand.
Yeah.
Right, from the time where he's always been clear about where he is, right? But from a time where he was at that stage where he wanted to change, and he started to change, and the kind of credibility this guy enjoys today and how people love him, amazing. But that's simply because he didn't have to carry the constant burden of faking it.
Couldn't agree more.
Right, because if I'm already pretending to be successful, then how do I go to a coach and say I'm not successful?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Right. Yeah.
A super example, and I'd love to hear more stories. But Gurpreet is someone who we've both known very closely. But certain other networking success stories, and you work with so many people. So certain other stories that stand out in your mind, which have been successes by virtue of leveraging networking as a method and a medium.
Absolutely. I've got so many, right? I've got Anand Narula, Ashish Ranjan, Pallavi Chaturvedi. Let's talk about Pallavi. Great one, right? So Pallavi came to me. She's a financial advisor, really good one, right? She came to me when she was working with an organization, an insurance company, and she was all about that insurance company. And she was putting a lot of value on that insurance company, but not enough on herself. Right? Very good insurance company, should be valued, nothing wrong. But I went to her one day and said, okay, good, you value this company. That's awesome, but how much do you value yourself? Right? And that conversation is till today stuck in my mind. Yeah. Anytime I meet her, she still says, Paritosh, that was one conversation that changed the game. And today, the kind of business she's built, the kind of things, I get inspired when she tells me how she's networking today. And I kind of have to go pinch myself and like, these are students that I've taught. Wow. Because I generally believe they've exceeded me now. They left me behind in networking. Kunal Singhal is one of them. The kind of person who would go to a full day networking conference, not talk to a single person, come back. Today running an employee of, I don't know, last I checked, it was 300 odd people, multiple businesses, being invited to speak at various events on networking. And still, by the way, as big of an introvert as he was in day one. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right. Ashish Ranjan, he's gone out, built businesses across countries, right? He's the kind of person who's, if he comes and meets you, right, he's the kind of person who will be thinking, आया हूं तो देके जाऊंगा. But the most world is trying to say, आया हूं तो लेके जाऊंगा.
100%.
Right? This guy's gonna find just a way, just like Prashant, PJ.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, a common connect, right?
Yeah.
He's always thinking, how can I give? What can I do? What can I do?
True.
Right? These are just names these people have turned around. In our, the way you have 10x, interestingly enough, that's one thing common. In our program, we've got 10x, 50x, 100x, right? You talk 10x business, we talk 10x investment because we don't work on profits of people, right? So our goal is that within 1 year, that when somebody's coming into a program, bare minimum they should be getting 10x of their investment. That's how we track every month. We track, and this is only through networking. So a lot of people go to 10x, many go to 50x, some go to 100x as well, right? People go to 100x. It is so embarrassing. I'm saying this on camera. When I give them that, we give out a huge certificate. We do a big ceremony. We give them 100x, and I say, "Okay, share with the world about how did you do 100x." First thing they say, So we didn't implement half of what you said. It's so embarrassing. I don't know, I'm being stupid even admitting this on camera right now, but it's the truth, okay? They come and say, we just did one of these two things right, that we became authentic, we started taking care of our clients, we started taking care of our team, our people. I know you value that as a culture of your organization, right? And we went out and we started helping people. I think that's all we did. And in a year, they've been able to get 100x return. And if I go back and track to them right now, we don't have an X club to fit them in. Right? And they're just implementing these simple principles. One of my core beliefs, Gaurav, is success is in the basics. We get the basics right, amazing stuff's gonna happen. And to me, that is networking. Everything else follows.
So true. And I think anytime something is going wrong in a person's organization, in a person's life, I think just going back to basics is invaluable. And I think it always helps. Even when, the Indian cricket team is going through a bit of a funk, I think even they go back to basics and train.
Yeah.
They train and train and train and train.
Yeah.
The worse things get, the harder they train.
You mentioned ROI, and that brings to my mind a very interesting question, because I sometimes have people come to me and they say, oh, networking takes too much time. Could be an organization like, a BNI or a EO or a CC, like the various organizations that have popped up. And they're like, iski ROI humko samajh nahi aaya. We didn't understand, the ROI and how we can draw the ROI based on the time and effort that we put in. How do we put that misconception to rest? And what would be the right way for figuring out ROI?
Okay. First, let me agree to what you said. You said a lot of people believe networking takes a lot of time. You're absolutely right. Networking does take a lot of time and effort. You do it wrong. Right? When you do it right, it is effortless. Let's just be very clear about it. Networking is not a thing that you do. It's something that you become. You become a networker, right? In my early days, when I used to focus on making my education fancy rather than impactful, when I was learning myself,
right,
I used to talk about this concept called the Denban principle, BENBAN.
Mm-hmm.
And this stood for BEN, don't have a network, BAN, be a networker. Right, build a network.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, don't have a network, build a network. Right. So that's what I used to say, that when you build the right kind of network, it's not going to take a lot of time. It's not. And this is where people get it wrong. Number one, they're not consistent with it. Right. There's one category of networker called splash and dash. So these are the kind of people who would, when business is going well, they'll sit in their office. That's the best time to be going out and networking, but they'll sit in their office. Everything's going well.
Right.
But in the moment graph starts to go down, they'll start splashing networking events. And the moment they get a few deals, they'll dash again.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you're networking like that, you're not building credibility, nothing's going to happen. Right. But if you want to get ROI on networking, one very simple principle is a huge framework. I can talk about that if you're interested. Right. Let me just give the one thing that's Pareto principle 80%.
Right.
Is 20% that's going to bring 80% result is making networking a priority. What most people are doing is that when they've got time from everything else, that is when they'll go and network.
Yeah.
It is an optional thing. It's a secondary thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But when they go into the office, they're like, "Kaam karna hai, to-do list hai." And I often wonder, what do the Tatas and Ambanis and the Musks and the Murthys and the Bezos are doing when they go to office? Like, aaj ki meri to-do list kya hai? Kisse paisa collect karna hai? Nahin. They're thinking, who are the right people? How do I find them? Where the right companies I buy from? Who are the right people I need to meet? Where's the right collaboration? Who do I need to inspire? Where are the great leaders, right? Whatever they're doing, they're thinking in level of ideas, and to execute the ideas, they need people, and the science of people. It's called networking.
Yeah.
So these guys, they look at ROI not just in who I met, how much business I got,
Right.
but for them, ROI is, I've got my vision, I need the right people, where are they? Right? I talk about this and I say that these people, they don't network for business. The number one reason they're networking is scouting. Scouting for talent.
Right.
And these guys start 5-6 years before the right people that they want to hire. They start
Correct.
building relationships 5-6 years before, right? Then they're scouting for right companies to buy. They're scouting for right ideas. They're scouting for right collaborations. Right? Getting business is probably the least amount of thing. That's there. But if somebody does want to get, ROI. Let's just say, let's take BNI example. Let's take corporate connections, EU, YPO. Let's take those where people are going for tangible ROI. Most of the people who go to BNI don't have a goal.
Yeah.
Or I'm just talking about BNI right now. Any networking platform, right? Whether it's corporate connection, they're going out, they're like, okay, chal, let me go give my pitch and I'll get some business.
Right.
If I sit with a BNI member right now and I say, tell me what your goal is, tell me how many referrals do you need, right? Tell me what is the conversion ratio, so tell me how many opportunities do you need to land. They don't have it. They don't.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know what you want, where is the question of ROI? Right? And let me give a very simple framework. Look at how much money you made last year. Let's say it was 10 crores. Okay. How much money you want to make this year? Right? Let's say 20 crores.
Sure.
Okay. What percentage of this 20 crores, additional 10 crores you want to get from networking? Let's say 5 crores you want to get from it.
Correct.
What is the average ticket price for a client? Let's say it is 50 lakhs. Now you know from networking you need 10 clients. Now you go to BNI, you ask yourself, if I get 10 referrals, how many convert? Let's say 1 convert.
Correct.
Now you know you need 100 referrals.
Yep.
Divide that by 52. Now you need 2 a week.
Correct.
So you get 2 a week, and you track whether I'm getting those 2 referrals, and then you track out of every 10 whether 1 is converting. You have your ROI. Where is the problem?
Not that.
Where? I have never understood till date. भाई problem ROI track करने में किधर है? अब I'm going to an event, और let's say मैं marketing की बात करते हैं, networking की नहीं, marketing में पैसा डाले आ रहा हूँ, मैंने कोई goal नहीं set करा हुआ, मैं अपना ROAS नहीं check कर रहा, मैं कुछ नहीं check कर रहा. Of course I won't know the ROI. मैं networking में time डाले जा रहा हूँ, मैंने अपना कोई goal नहीं set करा हुआ. Of course I won't know the ROI. Networking is extremely measurable. Today I can tell you for every student of mine, Gaurav, at how many X of their investment are they sitting at? They may be at 3.2X or they may be at 32X.
Yeah.
But for every student of mine, I can tell you.
Phenomenal.
And it is so simple, it is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how you put in terms of the intangible and the tangible, right? With a formula to calculate it. And you're right. I think people, when they come into a networking situation or an organization, sometimes they come in because they liked a meeting, they had a friend who was there. As you mentioned, business may have been a little slow, so I decided I need to do this. And we always talk about the 2 laws of prospecting, and the second law of prospecting states this, is that the prospecting that you do between today and day 30, the results will come after 60 to 90 days. Now the thing is, okay, suppose you had this roller coaster ride where feast to famine, right? So sometimes people have so much that they just stop doing all prospecting, and then they wonder why after 3 months, right? They have
This is what I meant when I said when your business is doing well, that is the best time for you to be networking. Because at that time, dare I say, you don't have that desperation.
Correct.
You don't have that need. You can be out there. You've got that different energy. People look at you. Sabko sabka sach dikhta hai. People can tell that you're doing well. They want to associate with you.
Correct.
Right? And you're not being pushy for business. You're able to focus on relationships. And see, business graph is always like this. Always. Always. There's no business that goes up. So when this is going down, your network is your safety net. But for that, you have to be out there. You can't be doing splashing and dashing.
No.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and you're right, because I'm just thinking back to the time of when the pandemic happened, and people's networks came out to help, and how, and above and beyond, and no one thought about money. Kisi ko blood chahiye tha, oxygen chahiye tha.
People put their life at stake, yaar.
Yeah,
I saw that.
There was a curfew. Remember one person, in fact the person who introduced me to networking and to BNI, which is Manu Dhawan, he went through a situation where there were some breathing difficulties. Another member broke curfew. Okay, got into her car. Okay, just drove to his place and said, "Sit in my car. We're going to the hospital right now." Like that kind of stuff was happening, and that's priceless. That can't be measured. But yet you also spoke about the tangible aspect, where it said, "Okay, come in with a goal that this is what I need, and this is what the revenue expectations are. This is what my conversion percentages are, and hence the math is all available."
2 minutes time. It takes 2 minutes to make networking tangible. All you need is a paper and a pen and calculator on your phone. Right? That's it.
I love how the fact Paritosh mentioned that he can actually give you, as a student, the exact return on investment and where you stand today. And I think the amount of care and attention he's given to each of his people. And of course, we put in some of the links of his programs and the amazing things that he runs in the chat and the comment section of this particular podcast as well. But if you haven't already followed this man, you need to. The conversations are done. We're still going to talk for a few more minutes, but just know that this is, when I say that there are 5 people, okay, who I really trust when it comes to the world of coaching and training. Here is number 1 on the list.
Thank you, Gaurav.
Side.
Thank you. Vice versa. Right back at you.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, learn from the master. Let's talk about sometimes going to events, right? And how do you make an impact at an event without really trying, too hard? What would be your top pieces of advice to people attending events and trying to make a bit of impression?
So, number 1, go in prepared, right? And I don't mean have your business cards ready. What I mean is have your value proposition, right? You got to know what problems you solve. A lot of people know what product they sell and how good the products are and what are the benefits, which is pretty amazing. I'm not denying that. But what really creates an impact is someone who knows the difference they're making in the life of the people they're trying to help. So I'm not really trying to teach people how to go and introduce themselves. I'm trying to help people be able to build great relationships with themselves and with other people. That's it. So when I go in prepared with my value proposition is the impact that I'm bringing, the problems that I'm solving, not the benefits that I'm getting. That is the difficult part. That's one. The second, we've already answered. When you go, don't talk about yourself. Right? There was a point in time, Gaurav, I did a research, like a survey of my own. I've got a huge mailing list. I sent a questionnaire out, and I asked, what is the one emotion that you feel when somebody comes in, gives you their card and their elevator pitch without you asking? There was one word that appeared most in response: desperate.
Couldn't agree.
Right? That people said that they're smiling on the outside, but inside, they're like this person being so needy, and is this person desperate, must not be doing well. These are the kind of responses I got, right? So one, go in prepared, know what you really offer, and then understand that networking is about the person that you're talking to. It's not about you. And the moment you focus on the other person and you're trying to help them, whether it is giving them a book, whether it's making a recommendation, whether it's an article, whether it's a training program, whether it's a contact, a connection in your network, the moment you're helping someone, barriers go down. They're able to sense sabko sabka sach hai. And then they'll come back and say, by the way, what can I do for you? Because we've learned this at BNI, that reciprocity is built into our DNA.
100%.
Right? The moment I like you and I see that you're trying to help me, I'm going to go out of my way to see what can I do for you. And I may not be able to do anything for you today.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not able to do anything for you for the next 5 years. But I'll never forget you. And in the 6th year, when an opportunity opens up, I'll be like, this is now I can help Gaurav.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Gaurav and, hey, Gaurav, you know what, buddy, this, that, I may not have stayed in touch with you for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But I'll be so excited calling you because I'll remember. So, you want to go leverage events? Very simple. Go unprepared. Elevator pitches are good. You got to have them, but not just with that. But the value that you bring in, and then go and talk to other people about them and just see. They'll ask you what you do.
Love that.
And of course, like in sales, the fortune is in the follow-up.
Oh, yes.
So what's the best way to follow up post an event without, again, feeling too needy or desperate? So what would be your rule book on post-event follow-up?
Lovely. So since we're talking about this, Gaurav, let's do one thing. I'm currently editing a course, Even Networking Mastery. Right, it's a video course. Right, for your audience, let's put in the link, and I'm going to give a discount code, 100% free. We'll put that in, and this is coming from my pleasure. This is coming from that course itself. Okay, so when it comes to follow up, I say that there is something called day 0 action and day 1 action. Right. So what is a day 0 action? Day 0 action is, I've met you today. Let's just say you've even said to me that, Paritosh, your training sounds interesting. Send me some information. Right. Now, I've met you today. Now, the rule is before I go to sleep, no matter what, before I go to sleep, I have to start a conversation with you, not about my training, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save your contact on my card, open WhatsApp, and send you a message. Hey, Gaurav, lovely meeting you today. You know, this, what do you call this?
The 10x label.
The 10x lapel, yeah, lapel, right? It doesn't look like a lapel. Lapels are usually small. I love this, okay? The 10x lapel is stuck in my head, right? And I love the idea that you own what you do, Gaurav. The 10x, you owning it, it's absolutely amazing. Great meeting you. We'll be connecting with you soon about the training. God bless, take care. Now, what have I done? I've sent you a message. Correct. It's not a business follow-up.
No.
Right? No. Most people would be saying, hey, Gaurav, great to have met you today. Here is some information you had asked for. Yeah. And they'll send you that information. And day zero, you're so busy. You're tired. You're exhausted. You're thinking about your own follow-ups. The last thing you're thinking about is cutting a check to someone else.
So true.
Right?
So
day zero, you're not in that space.
Yeah.
So I'm just sending a gratitude message. And what I'm doing is when I'm saying your 10x lapel, that is so amazing. That part tells you that I've only sent this message to you. Because the chances that there was another Gaurav at the conference wearing a 10x lapel is unlikely.
Yeah.
So something unique that happened in our conversation. I'm going to send you that. And I generally mentioned we'll be in touch soon. We're getting a training that shows I'm not desperate.
Great.
Right. Now, when you get a message like this, that you own, I love how you own the 10x. Right? You reply. The conversation starts. Now, day one. Right? Day one also, I'm not just going to say, hey, Gaurav, here's the link to the workshop. Right. First, I'm going to say, Gaurav, you had asked for the details of the workshop. Before I send you those, here is a short video of what the participants have to say about the workshop. Please do watch it and let me know when's a good time for us to take the conversation forward. Now, I'm still not selling. I'm still not selling. I'm just sending you, this is something that we call credibility builder. Okay. You build your credibility. When a video goes out, what would you enjoy more? Just think about it. Would you enjoy more watching the reactions of the people who've done my training? Or would you enjoy more reading what's going to happen in the 3 days of the program?
No. The former. Yeah.
You know. So when you like that, when that credibility is built, you're more likely to go through the pages.
Yep.
Right. So I recommend follow up in a day zero and day one action. Day zero is gratitude, personal connection. Day one is credibility builder.
Yep.
And from there, you build your business conversation, right? Relationship before business. Because when you get relationship before, some people would not be interested in relationship. That's okay. Do business, right? Some would be, right? But when you're able to build relationship, business happens faster, longer, more profitable.
Love that.
So, day zero and day one actions, and of course having a template. Thank you so much for offering the recording of event Networking Mastery. It's a program I've attended myself. Yes. It to be extremely impactful. Actually, almost 1 hour into that session, remember thinking that we've been doing something for so long that we take it for granted. And even as we talk about our own introductions, we don't do justice to the introductions. And then we wonder why we perhaps didn't make the impact that we should have. That was my big takeaway, like in 1 hour into what was a very, very engaging day of training.
I'm glad. Thank you.
So let's hear about some of the programs that you're running right now, because I'd love to also let the audience know about some of the, the core and the key things that you do and how they could, connect with you before we start winding this up. I know we're close to an hour mark.
Wow. Oh, yes.
Yeah. But would love to know how some of the things that you're running right now and how the audience can actually connect with you.
So I have 3 segments of businesses, Gaurav. One, I've got a group coaching program that I run for entrepreneurs. Second, I work with corporates such as BCG and Paxate and these kind of companies as a client. Then I've got one-on-one coaching that I do, which is for select people, kind of people who can't come to group coaching, etc.
Right.
And then also 4th one, I do networking strategies for conferences. Right. Let me focus on the first one here.
Sure.
Okay. For entrepreneurs, I've got to begin with, I've got a 2-hour webinar called Activate Your Network. People come in and I actually get them to activate their network during those 2 hours. I don't give gyan to get people to activate. And then if they like that, then they're welcome to come and attend my 3-day program, The New Rules of Professional Networking. Right. This is where we turn the game of networking. The world goes upside down, and by the time you're out of those 3 days, the level of networking that you can do is a whole other thing. Yeah. And if somebody's absolutely ready to take the commitment to extreme, ultra, pro, max level, then we've got a 10-month program called Master Networker Program, which is where I track the ROI, and the students track the ROI that they end up getting. Right. So it's really all 3 options are available. But if anyone has to start, I'll recommend start with the 2-hour webinar. Right. Come to that, see whether you enjoy. You'll get to know what my philosophy is, how I teach, what I do, and from there, relationship, it's more about the relationship building from there. Business will happen.
And I think you're a big believer in the fact that you aren't looking for quick wins. You're in it for the long term.
Yes,
So you're not, here to splash and dash, as you mentioned. None of that. It's not what you really stand for.
I've done that though, but I want to be very honest. I've done that enough in my life to know that it only works in the short term. The reason I don't do that now is not because it's a philosophical decision. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's extremely tiring. It's extremely taxing to keep doing it. Right? Or when you're playing the long game, like it's an absolute privilege for me to be sitting here. If it wasn't for relationship, Gaurav, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Right? This is what relationships can do.
Glad we could make this work because you have a very crazy schedule, and this is 3 days before Diwali, and as a gifting company, we should be busier. But
So you have to know this. The reason you have to learn from this guy is because we were just having lunch in his other building, and me and Gaurav's dad we were talking, and I said to Gaurav's dad, I'm surprised how did Gaurav find the time to do this 3 days before Diwali, because you are a gifting company and you're supposed to be crazy busy, and I know you guys are busy, but how did Gaurav find the time? And he said one simple sentence with a lot of pride on his face: Gaurav is really good at delegating. Right? So, which is absolutely amazing. The last thing I would have expected, Gaurav, is a gifting company owner being able to shoot a podcast 3 days before Diwali. This is amazing, man.
yeah, and amazingly, it was also our largest month of all time. So we watched the World Cup and a whole bunch of things around that. And the global piece has blown up. But again, I have taken to these global conversations and the business conversations, things that you've taught me over the years, and how I remember walking into organizations in San Jose and New York and the UK and Thailand, across, the globe, and just saying, I'm not here to take. I'm here to, perhaps collaborate, just get to know a little bit more about you, learn from you, give some of my insights. And I think, again, what has stood out has been the genuineness behind it. And they're like, okay, here is someone who, I could chip any, he's here to actually, right? And I think you're just so right. And and everything relates to that. And I just think that all the insights that you've given today, have really been so powerful.
Thank you.
And in conclusion, as we would wrap this up, what would be the one piece of advice? Okay, and I'm going to take it to 3 audiences. So in effect, we'll be actually answering 3 questions.
Okay.
So one piece of advice to the youth, and by youth I mean people who may still be in school, college, or recently graduating. So that's going to be one. The second is going to be working professionals, and the third is going to be entrepreneurs and business owners. So one piece of advice on the networking side from you for all 3 audiences.
Let's go with students, okay? To students, I want to say that while you're learning, while you're educating yourself, make sure you're building your network along with that, no matter how small it is. Open a simple Google sheet. Capture every relationship that you're coming across, every faculty, every guest speaker. Connect with them once or twice a year. Just say hello to them, keep them updated on what you're doing, right? Let them have the opportunity to see you grow. Because tomorrow, these are the people who may open big doors for you, hire you, do partnership with you, invest in your business. You don't know. You can start now. You don't have to be like us, that you're trying to figure this out when you've crossed 40. And you're like, okay, now how do I do this? Okay, so start early. That's my advice to students. But just because you're a student doesn't mean that networking is no longer relevant to you. Please go to your colleges, universities, and tell them that you want a course on networking. Ask them to bring in guest speakers, right? Experts, the people like Gaurav, a lot of practitioners out there who can come and give great insights, right? Demand. That's what I'm asking you to do, right? So that's for the students. Okay, let's go to corporate professionals, right? The biggest trap, Gaurav, that I've seen in the corporate world, I've been in the corporate world myself, is people who are professionals, corporate professionals, think that their work will speak for them. That's the biggest lie. They believe their work will speak for them, and yet they constantly see people who are not as competent as them being promoted over them. So if the work spoke for us, then how it's going to happen? When we're doing trainings for corporates, we talk about a framework called CORI, C-O-R-I. Imagine a quadrant, C-O-R-I. Right? C stands for competence. You got to have that. the journey of corporate world doesn't start if you're not competent. O stands for ownership. If you don't have ownership, sabko sabka sach dikhta hai, they will know, right? R stands for relationship. You got to build relationships, because the moment you come to leadership role, what are you leading? You're not leading projects, you're leading people, right? And I is initiative. You got to take initiatives. You got to go out of your comfort zone, etc., etc. Do this, right? So my advice to corporate professionals: stop thinking that your work's going to speak for you. It is not, right? Good work is important, but it is the bare minimum qualification. Beyond that, you need to be able to build the right relationships. Entrepreneurs, अच्छे बनो, सच्चे बनो, सबके बनो. This is what I want to tell them. Right? Be good, right? Be good, because the world can see your truth. Right? Be truthful. You can't hide who you are. People already know. And then be for everyone. Don't just look at networking as a short-term solution. Look at it as a long-term game, which is going to at every milestone, it's going to give you huge dividends, even in the short term. Long-term game. Don't project people out. Don't rule people out. If you don't agree with someone, don't turn them into your enemy. Don't go into politics. Build as many relationships as possible. Right? I want to tell you this, guys. You're only the best if you can handle the worst. If you are at a networking event and there are people that you don't like, and if you can't handle them, then you're not the best. Best. Right? So.
Tremendous. Like I said, so many years of knowing you, so many years of working together, and still always learn everything or something new every time. And finally, we shot this entire episode in one take. There hasn't been any break. We haven't refilled your water. I had cue cards. Okay, which I haven't even looked at. But that's just the beauty of it, right? Like, it was just, I think, such a phenomenal conversation. Actually, again, thank you so much for taking this time out. And yes, we're going to have a lot of our audience, connect with you for sure. I'm sure they're going to like this and want to reach out to you. And of course, I'll post all your social handles, including that offer that you made as well. And I would also like to give you a couple of things from our side as a token of appreciation for being here. So one is with Diwali.
Lovely. Free stuff. So, wow. This is amazing.
Consortium Yes and GBA hamper. And there's some interesting things in there. And all of these have been curated by, apart from Jin, have been curated by women businesses and women entrepreneurs. Wow. And, some students, some friends. So some interesting things. And that's, of course,
Thank you, Bert.
something for you.
Thank you.
And then, of course, I didn't give you a signed edition of Grant Cardone's book.
One second. So,
So you call him GC? Is that the code name? GC, if you're watching this, can you send this video to GC?
I will.
Right. You've got one hell of a guy, right? And I want to tell you this. I just met him, came to his office, and he gave me his last copy that he had signed by you. And it just blew me away. Just because of that book, I'm creating a separate showcase of these VIP books that I'm going to cherish all my life. And I want to say this to you, that you couldn't have found a better person in India to be leading your mission. He shared your story with me today, how you came up to the people and you said that you wanted your message to go on even after you, right? One hell of a guy, right? Thank you, Gaurav. Lovely.
Like I said, you've been my guru and as a Grant Cardone, and I just thought it would be fitting that yes, there is a book that he signed for me, and I wanted you to have it because you embody, like I said, everything that the world of training, coaching, and mentoring really needs.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much. Lovely being here. Yeah. I love all the experience that you brought in, and this probably has to be one of the most interesting podcasts out of shot, right? Really, an hour plus has gone by. Absolutely amazing, Gaurav. Thank you. Keep doing the amazing work. There could not be a better person to teach sales. I have seen your journey myself, the way you've grown. Right? It's just unfortunate every time you do your workshop, my dates are blocked. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to being there soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Paritosh Pathak, the not only networking coach, but just a fine human being. If you haven't had the chance to meet with him right now, you should. It will change your life. Thank you so much, Brett.
thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, everyone. God bless.